Tonight, two sides in a war still far apart, it seems, on how to end it.
They're negotiating on fumes, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it, maybe we don't.
The White House says an account that emerged from Iran today of where peace efforts are going is pure fiction. We join young volunteer first responders faced with death, danger and destruction in Lebanon, where a ceasefire exists in name only.
We did our best, and there's no words, just may God protect everyone.
Why is Israel choosing this moment to intensify attacks in Lebanon and in Gaza too? Also tonight. Is this the next UN Secretary-General? The nuclear watchdog boss, Rafael Grossi, makes his case to me. We're all on the digital front lines, warns the GCHQ spy chief. Against AI, she says, is an unstoppable force.
Home, that means taking important action to switch from passwords to pass keys.
On hunger strike behind bars in Iran, the son of imprisoned British couple Lindsay and Craig Foreman tells how their lives are at stake in their desperation for freedom. And Matthew Perry's personal assistant is sentenced to more than 3 years for his role in the Friends star's drug death. All that and more ahead in The World with me, Matt Barbet. Good evening. It is called a Memorandum of Understanding. It's supposed to be a crucial step the US and Iran would take towards ending their war. But it appeared only to be misunderstanding today when Iranian state TV claimed to have a draft of the framework deal. It was said to include that shipping in the Strait of Hormuz would be handled by Iran in cooperation with neighbouring Oman, and the US would withdraw military forces from the vicinity of Iran. There was no mention of the country's nuclear programme, which the US does want to dismantle. All of this, though, is a complete fabrication, according to the White House. But President Trump says the talks go on.
They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes.
We'll have more on that soon with our US correspondent David Blevins, who is in Washington. But we begin tonight with the parallel war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is escalating despite a supposed ceasefire. Sky's special correspondent Alex Crawford went to Nabatea, a city under Israeli fire in the south of Lebanon. A warning that Alex's piece now contains images of dead and injured people and pictures of CPR attempts that you may find distressing.
The life of a paramedic in Lebanon is full of danger right now. The first responders don body armour and helmets to enter the war zone that's outside. There have just been multiple strikes in Nabatea city, and they're setting out to see if anyone's been caught up in the bombings who might need rescuing. These young men are all trained first responders, but they're volunteers. They're also teachers, shopkeepers, accountants. Ali's a computer engineer, now a full-time paramedic.
What are you expecting to find?
I wish there's no one there. No one was injured.
The Nabatea ambulance crews head out knowing they too risk being hit, that just turning up to a strike site could lead to their death or injury too. There's been a string of attacks against emergency crews from all different organisations. The crews move swiftly to find anyone trapped or injured. The Israeli military says Hezbollah fighters are hiding amongst civilian homes. But there's no evidence of any military activity here when we turn up with the first responders. There's palpable tension. Their job is seen as one of the most dangerous in South Lebanon right now. When they find any wounded, they move quickly. Every minute counts, and the risk to the crews grows with every second they remain on site.
Well, they've just pulled out at least one casualty. You've got to remember there's hardly anyone living here now. The city has completely emptied out. But there is a pattern of multiple strikes over the past few days. We've seen it just today, with many of the residents, even those that are remaining behind, absolutely terrified and many of them just staying here because they have no other option.
The crews have moved into a temporary base for security reasons and operate from here constantly. They work in shifts, so there are periods of rest, but there are always crews ready to respond to bombings day and night.
This is also the living room, and we all sleep here in this room.
How many of you here in this room?
We are 25 people.
25 of you
families.
all in this room?
Yeah. Here are the safety tools. This is the helmet, and this is the vest.
The responsibility of deploying these teams weighs heavily on the organisation's leaders.
When you're sending them out, it must go through your head that they might not come back.
Yeah. It might happen because this is a war.
The crews snatch moments when they can, all driven by a desire to help people.
What was the thing that drew you to the ambulance service or to be a first responder?
Their message and their honesty in their work, and because
But there are fewer rest periods now. It's time for Ali to head out again.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Come on, let's go.
It's always a journey into the unknown. The only certainty is the danger they'll be facing.
Ali, do you get the impression that they've got any specific target, or what's the pattern?
actually we never know. We don't know what they are targeting. Our mission is only to look for civilians and do our job.
They speed through mostly deserted streets, aware their presence is viewed with suspicion. They now wear GoPros to every call to counter Israeli claims that ambulances are used to ferry Hezbollah fighters or weapons. They have minimal information about what they're turning up to. But what you're about to see will be upsetting to some and shows graphic injuries. They find several destroyed motorbikes near a cemetery. There seem to be at least 4 people badly wounded. The first spotted is trapped under branches. A second is lying face down with critical head injuries, but appears to be conscious and moaning for help. They get him on a stretcher and between them inch the casualty over the twisted debris. This is a scene being repeated all across the south, and it's the rescuers who are the crucial link to any medical care nearby. On the battlefield, which is South Lebanon, it's the actions of the emergency crews which can save lives. Ali does frantic CPR inside the ambulance to try to revive his patient as he begins to lose consciousness. The hospital surgeons will take over now. Ali's panting gives away what he's put his body through. This work is utterly draining for these young volunteers who've seen more death and trauma in the past few weeks than most of their lives.
What were you able to do?
It's critical. Critical bleeding. He had some injuries in his head, also on the chest and back, almost everywhere in his body. But we did our best, and there's no words, just may God protect everyone.
They know sometimes even doing your best may not be good enough. There are reminders on the base of just how fragile life is for the medics. 3 of their colleagues were killed within a few weeks of each other. We were with the Nabatea crews at the end of March as they mourned 2 of their youngest to be killed. The 2 being buried were teenagers hit by an Israeli drone whilst delivering meals on motorbikes to those still in the city. The youngest, Jude, was 16 and the son of their chief paramedic. These are the moments after they were killed. You see the chief paramedic running in as he realises one of them is his young son. They used to believe their jobs gave them some protection. Not anymore. We're in the city's main hospital 24 hours later as more of the Nabatea crews are treated. Mustafa tells us then they're feeling vulnerable turning out to strikes.
The Israelis don't differentiate whether you're a paramedic or not. They just target everyone, but this doesn't scare us.
His older colleague Maddie was insistent to us that they had a duty to keep going. Who'll do it if we don't, he told us in March, and put his body armour straight back on to head out. It was only weeks after this filming that Maddie too was killed, this time in a triple tap attack. The GoPro footage from the day shows the Nabatea crews are the third on the scene. The second emergency crew ahead of them has already been hit. The Nabatea team is transferring those already injured medics into their ambulances. But it's at this point when they too are hit. Maddie is among those who never recover. There are altogether 4 medics killed in this single series of strikes. Maddie's friend Mustafa and the other surviving medics are steadfast in their determination to continue. There's a strength in their camaraderie, of shared trauma, and too much going on with a real uptick in attacks. Both the Israeli military and Hezbollah are flouting the agreed ceasefire at this point.
We don't get to choose what happens to us. God's responsible for us, and he knows how to take us and how to bring us back.
There's hardly time to eat on this base. There's the constant soundtrack of either drone attacks or airstrikes whilst we're with them. Other emergency crews are closer and already en route, so they sit this one out. But there's plenty to choose from, with Israeli jets constantly circling the city. The Israeli military has been instructed to ratchet up attacks and press deeper into Lebanon. And it's very evident in Nabatea. It's these which are frustrating Israeli operations, Hezbollah's use of unmanned drones, which so far the military's been unable to stop. The drones are having a devastating effect on the Israeli military, killing multiple soldiers, destroying army bases inside Lebanon, and Hezbollah's also using them to fly into northern Israeli towns, causing terrible fear there. The emergency crews are busier than ever in Nabatea. The ceasefire agreed in mid-April exists in name only, and the casualties are climbing on a daily basis. The numbers of paramedics being killed is rising too, more than 20 during what's meant to be a truce. The Lebanese Health Ministry believes it's a deliberate policy to destroy the medical infrastructure, and medics who've worked in Gaza see similarities.
Yesterday, for example, our first patients arrived at around 10ish. One of the paramedics who brought them, on returning back to his post, was killed there, and a number of his colleagues injured, became our next round of patients. So from what I've seen here, I think there is systematic targeting of paramedics, yes.
Most patients brought here are transferred once stabilised. And that's why. It's too unsafe to keep critically ill patients here. An already dangerous and unstable situation is becoming worse. It's taking its toll on the young emergency crews faced with death, danger and destruction multiple times a day, and who are watching their city disintegrate in front of them.
It's a ghost town right now. You can see a mass destruction everywhere. All our memories, like the neighbors, the places we used to go when we were kids, everything is destroyed now.
They pray with no apparent end to the war in sight, and wonder how many of them will still be doing this job in the weeks or months ahead. Days earlier in the neighbouring district, they were mourning 3 other medics killed, again in a double-tap strike. The cortege was led by the 8-year-old son of one of the victims. Almost every emergency organisation in the south has been through this torment. The Lebanese government's called for urgent international protection for its first responders. The howls of raw grief are inconsolable. And these killings were again caught on camera. The medics in neon jackets were calling in a second ambulance after a father and his child were hit. But as they arrive, there's another bomb. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! The moment of impact is captured by a second camera inside the arriving ambulance. The 2-man crew inside survive, but now they too are wounded. All 3 of their colleagues outside on the road were killed, and those they were helping. We asked the Israeli military why these first responders were attacked, but they offered no credible explanation. The Israeli military told us they hit 2 Hezbollah motorbikes, one after the other, but didn't explain why the video of the attack seemed to contradict this. The military said they're examining the claims of uninvolved individuals being harmed. It's been a terrible few days for first responders, with 9 medics killed in just 72 hours. That's more than 1 medic a day killed since March. There's huge destruction in many of the southern cities, including the main cemetery in Deir Hanoun, where many of the latest victims had been freshly buried. Hussein is a retired paramedic, still coping with the recent death of his wife. Her grave and those of his siblings are among those damaged. But he has added worries for the safety of his 4 sons, who are all paramedics.
I have 4 paramedics. This is the youngest one of them. This is my son, and I have 3 others who are also paramedics. They're all married with children, and I check on them constantly.
His youngest was meant to be with the latest crews killed in the double tap. He didn't go because his father begged him to stay behind.
The second ambulance came and they hit it. It's very clear we're all paramedics and just rescuing civilians. We've got absolutely no weapons, and yet they still attack us.
He fears the worst each time his sons answer emergencies. His family's already lost its matriarch. Now he almost expects 1 or more of his sons to be killed doing their jobs.
Some days I don't sleep. I lost my wife. We lived through the last war. And we were displaced and left our home. But the boys stayed here. If one son stays, I don't have too much of a problem. But if 4 of them stay and a strike takes them all, it's a disaster, a disaster.
The Nabatea emergency crews share an incredibly strong sense of duty. It sees medics like Fouad fitting in his other work commitments and conducting online maths lessons in between rescue missions. His students, like 1/5 of the country and Fouad himself, are all displaced. But school must go on.
I tell them education is just as important as what we're doing as paramedics, rescuing people. It's important for their future.
Ali too puts his skills as a barber to use at the base, which is now their main home. But these other activities fit around their ambulance work. There are Israeli military evacuation orders now covering the entire Nabatea city, home once to about 120,000 people. Roughly 10% remain, so the emergency crews stay too. But they're in a battlefield which is increasingly unpredictable.
Saying that we have very limited.
That's very close. The window to find casualties has abruptly closed. We can't hang around here too long.
because the planes are overhead and likely to hit again. Look at this town, full of destruction.
And nothing to indicate it's going to stop. Alex Crawford, Sky News in Nabatea, South Lebanon.
And Alex joins me now from Beirut. Evening to you, Alex. It certainly doesn't look like there's a ceasefire there, does it? And I think you've learnt this evening of yet more evacuation orders being issued by the Israelis.
It's the most extreme evacuation orders that have been issued by the Israeli military since there was an apparent agreed truce, which came into operation on April the 17th, but was very quickly flouted by both sides. These evacuation orders have told everyone south of the Zerani River, so that is maybe between 250 to 300 towns and villages, an area that's 30 kilometres inside Lebanon. It's a huge, huge area encompassing tens and thousands of people. They've told everyone in that area that they are to be considered now, if they stay there, to be in a combat zone and to get out of the area, forced displacement, otherwise they risk death or injury. And there have been bombings in Tyre, the most populated city, considered the capital of the south, tonight, on one of the Palestinian refugee camps, which is normally home to about 25,000 people, right in the middle of the residential area. It's obviously sparked a big exodus of people who are scrambling to get out of the area and move north of the Zerani River. This is an additional 10 kilometres or so to what the Israeli troops are currently already trying to create as their illegal occupied territory inside South Lebanon. And it's sparked a great deal of anguish, concern, anger amongst large sections of the population, particularly in the south of Lebanon. So far, Beirut, the capital where we are now, has not been touched and appears to be off limits as far as the Israeli military are concerned for now. But there is constant sound of Israeli drones overhead, and parts of Beirut have heard jets flying over as well. So there's a fear that the capital will follow very quickly soon.
Let's return to those paramedics in Nabatea you spent so much time with. Remarkable stoicism they show in amongst the terrifying moments and also the mundane everyday stuff, the teaching of maths or reverting to being a barber. It must be remarkable to sort of witness that.
Definitely is, and I'm glad you mentioned the maths teacher, because that young man held a 6-hour-long succession of online classes as the rest of his colleagues. He sets aside a certain day a week to teach his students who used to be in the area in Nabatea, but along with 90% of the population of Nabatea city have fled to get out of the way of the constant bombing and airstrikes and drone strikes that you saw in our report. He sets aside time because he believes education is so important to teach them. And it took 6 hours as all this bombing and airstrikes were going on. Those men, they were all men in this particular organisation, were absolutely extraordinary. Their dedication, they're all from the area, and their dedication to trying to save lives is quite extraordinary, because right now they feel very much that there's a target on their back. The Lebanese health minister has called it a massacre of medics and has urged the international organisation to step in and try and restrain the Israeli military from attacking first responders. They believe very much there's a systemic targeting of these crews, and every time they set out on these streets, particularly in Nabatea city, where they're very deserted and they stand out enormously, they feel that they're in danger, they're under risk of being hit themselves. So extraordinary bravery. And even setting that aside, the wounds and the amount of critical injuries that they're having to face on multiple times a day must have an amazingly devastating impact on their emotional psyche. their courage is extraordinary, and their dedication to duty, even though they've lost 3 of their own, and they know that many other organisations, including the Lebanese Red Cross, have lost people from targeted Israeli strikes. They still go out and out and out several times a day.
Remarkable story. Alex, thanks so much. Well, the fighting in Lebanon and killing of a Hamas leader in Gaza put Israel back in the tricky position of managing 2 fronts. Our Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons explores what could be behind the Israeli Prime Minister's thinking.
Israel has launched significant new military offensives in both Lebanon and Gaza over the past 24 hours. So here is the latest. But this was an attack on one of Gaza's busiest market areas. The Israelis were targeting one man, the head of Hamas's military wing, Mohammed Odeh. He was killed only days after starting his job. His predecessor had been killed by the Israelis earlier this month. This time a residential building was hit. You can see here people being taken to hospital. Local medics say that at least 3 Palestinians were killed. Presumably one of them was Mohammed Odeh. Dozens were injured. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, the health ministry says dozens of people have been killed there by Israeli strikes as the Israeli army pushes further into Lebanon. It's one of the deadliest days since a so-called ceasefire came into effect between Israel and Hezbollah, the group that is backed and funded by Iran. Israel's military says it's targeted more than 100 Hezbollah sites across southern and eastern Lebanon to stop a growing number of drone attacks that have hit both soldiers and northern Israeli residents. So what has Israel been saying about these strikes? Well, Benjamin Netanyahu is clearly putting pressure on 2 fronts. He's vowed to continue stepping up military action, especially against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Just this week, the Israeli Prime Minister said he had instructed his military, in his words, to press the pedal even harder. But there are many here who wonder whether Netanyahu's aim is to occupy as much land and do as much damage to Hezbollah as possible before a possible new peace deal between America and Iran, because that could bring in a new and potentially much more binding ceasefire in Lebanon.
That's Adam Parsons in Israel. President Trump says the US and Iran still have issues to resolve in peace talks after the White House dismissed a state media report out of Tehran about an apparent framework deal. Let's head live to the US. Our correspondent David Blevins is in Washington, D.C. for us this evening. David, why is the White House saying what Iran described via state media in terms of this framework as being a complete fabrication?
Well, for a number of reasons. It's only coming from one source. It's really only addressing one issue, and that is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. And to be blunt, it's what you would expect Iran to say at this point if it wanted to project strength to create the impression that it had created a wonderful deal in Tehran. But the White House response that it's a total fabrication is no great surprise, really, because they're telling us not to believe this because facts matter, and they do, but we're not hearing many facts from the White House either. The President today hosted a cabinet meeting lasting 1 hour and 20 minutes. During that, he told us that Iran wants to make a deal. They're not quite there yet, but they will get there, or he will, and I quote, finish the job. But he says he's holding out for the best possible deal.
It's got to be perfect. I'm not going to do this. I didn't do this to get a crummy agreement. We can make a good deal right now, but maybe not a great deal. And if it's not a great deal, we're not making it. So, because we can make a great deal with this guy right here. And but it's, you know, it's a lot nastier. Probably wouldn't go as quickly. We wouldn't be talking about it as quickly, but it would be foolproof. But I think we're doing very well, Steve. I think we're doing pretty well in terms of the negotiation, but we'll see.
Now, reports from Iran suggest this draft deal would lead to the US military lifting its naval blockade, shipping returning to normal in the Strait of Hormuz, under the control of Iran and Oman. When the President was asked if he was prepared to accept even a short-term deal along those lines, he said that nobody would be controlling the strait because it's in international waters and Oman will have to behave or we will blow them up. He suggested that Iran was negotiating on fumes at this point. His Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the man who oversees the implementation of US foreign policy, was a little more conciliatory. He said he was giving diplomacy a little more time. Some progress had been made, and in the coming days and hours it would be clear if there was going to be a deal or not. To be quite frank, during that cabinet meeting we heard as much about Venezuela and Cuba as we did about Iran. That's rather telling, because it means perhaps they don't have very much to tell us about Iran right now.
In DC, thank you very much indeed. Next, it is, by all accounts, a pretty difficult time to run a world body whose job it is to try to maintain peace. But Rafael Grossi believes he should be the next United Nations Secretary General, having spent years navigating the toughest of multinational diplomacy while he was in charge of the nuclear energy watchdog. I spoke to Mr. Grossi a bit earlier. I began by asking him why he wants to have the top job, which he's described the UN as weak and lacking respectability. And it's widely seen as being beset by allegations of scandal and corruption.
All of that, but every bit as important, and perhaps even more necessary than 80 years ago when it was created. It was created after the disaster of two wars, in fact, because when you read the charter, it says, you know, the war that has twice, for our generation, they were saying those years, had brought misery, etc. And so we, I suppose, let's say, as a international community, came together to say, well, it's like too much. We have to try to do something different and provide for an institution that can, as one famous Secretary General said, perhaps not take us to paradise, but to save us from hell. So, and the institution is necessary. You see what you see, what you report about every day, fragmentation, crisis here, there, and an institution that could play a very, very important role. It does, to a certain extent.
But it's been minimised. It's been ignored in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, yes. It has been absent.
How would you tackle that?
Well, by trying to change, not from a perspective of arrogance or knowing better than anybody else, but by working with countries. You know, I'm the leader of a different organization.
The IAEA.
The Atomic Energy Agency. And we have been able to do quite interesting stuff in very, very difficult places. So I've seen with my own eyes that it is possible to have a multilateral platform that can help you. For example, let me give you examples, otherwise everything is abstract. Sure. In the war between Russia and Ukraine, talking to Mr. Putin, talking to Mr. Zelensky, trying to avoid a nuclear accident at the nuclear power plant Zaporizhia, which was seized by the Russians and was under attack. So I was able to put together a deployment of people there in the Gulf. I'll be in the Gulf next week. You know that the Baraka nuclear power plant in the Emirates has been hit very recently, and there is a big concern. So we are there.
And you were in Kazakhstan just yesterday, meeting President Turkayev. Tell us more about what Kazakhstan might do in terms of being a repository for Iran's enriched uranium.
Like other countries, they are following the current negotiations between the United States and Iran. One important part of that, it has many aspects with it, Hormuz and the missiles and the proxies, but one very important thing is that there is a large amount of highly enriched uranium at 60% of enrichment. To make a bomb, you need 90%, so it's a few turns more, and then you are at that level.
Which is what they want?
We don't judge intentions.
Well, 60% uranium is not for creating energy, is it?
You are, exactly. You are very close to something which is quite sensitive.
Yeah.
And so this material is there, and it has to be removed as part of these negotiations. And this is where the interest of Kazakhstan and other countries comes in.
And there'll be an interest of Russia, because Vladimir Putin is there today. Is it safe moving Iran's enriched uranium to Kazakhstan?
It is safe to move it. You need
But putting it there, I mean.
Well, in Kazakhstan, yes, of course, it's a country that is in good standing with its non-proliferation obligations. It has a low-enriched uranium bank, so it has a number of basic infrastructural facilities that could, but it could be somewhere else. Russia has been mentioned. China has been mentioned. Other places have been mentioned.
So feasibly, could you see Iranian enriched uranium ending up in Russia or China? Would that be a success?
What would be a success would be to remove this uranium from a place where it could be used to make weapons.
So the obvious question is, do you know how much enriched uranium Iran has? Do you know where it is? Do you know how much of it is intact after being bombed in recent months?
Well, they used to have, until June, you remember the 12-day war last year?
Yeah.
Until that time, our inspectors, the IAEA inspectors, were there constantly checking. Last time we were there, in June, a few days before that war started, we had measured 440 kilograms, like 900 pounds, more or less, in the conversion, of this highly enriched uranium at 60%, and other amounts of 20%, 5%, and so on.
You're there because Iran is a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Indeed.
Israel isn't, and Israel is thought to have nuclear weapons. It keeps it fairly ambiguous. Has that been a frustration of yours, maybe a disappointment of your tenure, that you haven't been able to inspect Israel's capabilities more rigorously?
Well, not particularly in this. In general, I would say. In general, we would like to see this non-proliferation treaty that you are mentioning to be universal. That means that every country, especially countries having nuclear capabilities, would join the treaty. Unfortunately, this is not the case. You have, first of all, 5 countries, including the United Kingdom, that were originally the ones having nuclear weapons, and to that list you added a few more that in the course of the years, for strategic reasons, decided not to join because they felt that having the capability and nuclear weapons could be essential for their existence.
And you take that as read, do you, from Israel's point of view? It's essential for them to have them, but they shouldn't show them.
This is a decision and a characterization that belongs to them, not to me.
Let me come back to your pitch to be the next Secretary-General of the United Nations. I mean, we've just touched upon there countries that have strong men leaders. We're in that era, Trump and Netanyahu and Putin and Xi and Erdogan as well. Does the UN need a strong man leader now after your predecessor?
The UN, I think the difference between the UN and countries, nation states, is that in the UN you don't have power in the sense that you are describing it with these leaders, but you have something different, which is authority and the capacity to build bridges, to bring people together. But I would choose a different word.
What would you choose?
Decisiveness. You need somebody at the helm that knows what is necessary and knows how to do it.
And I know you think that's you, and I use the term strongman, but this could be a strong woman because 3 out of the 4 people you're vying with to take the leadership are women, and the UN has never had a woman Secretary-General. Why is now not the time?
When it comes to an election, you are electing a person. Can be a man, can be a woman. You're not electing a gender, you are choosing a person.
The best person for the job, you're saying?
The best person for the job is an election that should be based on the capacities, the merits, the consensus potential of that person. From the moment you have very able women candidates, the principle of gender equality is well preserved.
It was Rafael Grossi speaking to me earlier on. Next, the family of Lindsay and Craig Foreman, who are imprisoned in Iran. So the British couple have gone on hunger strike now as they push to be released. It's compounded concerns for the pair, who are from East Sussex, who've been sentenced to 10 years for espionage, charges they say were made up. Lindsay and Craig were arrested last year while they were passing through Iran on a world motorbike journey. The Foreign Office has described their jailing as appalling and unjustified. They're locked up in prison in the capital, Tehran. Their son, Joe Bennett, joins me now to discuss this. Joe, thank you very much indeed. We spoke just a matter of weeks ago, and I don't think hunger strike was on the cards then, but now both Craig and Lindsay are doing this. Have you spoken to them about it, and what are they saying?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt. I've spoken to them. I haven't spoken to my mum now for a couple of weeks. We've managed to get information through and contact, although not direct. It's getting to the latter stages now where, you know, the body's starting to change. Craig's day 18. My mum's day 10. And as you said there, the compounding fear for the family is getting worse every day, and especially with the no contact, it's making it extremely difficult to understand where they're at, how they're getting on, you know, whether or not this is going to come to an end, because, you know, people have their opinions about the hunger strike, and you can fear it. I know I do as their son, but you also have to ask yourself that what is it that drives ordinary innocent people to that point? You know, it's a cry and a desperate cry for help.
Yes, it really does show absolute desperation. Let's address what you're hearing from the authorities there and here. Iran first. Are they saying anything about this? Because I think your mum was led to believe that Craig was asking her to stop her hunger strike, when in actual fact, your belief is that was the authorities there trying to stop her. It wasn't Craig at all.
Yeah, this is the information that we get from our sources. And, you know, the one thing that backs that up is that I understand privately that my mum and Craig always had an agreement that if the communication was cut off, that's both with themselves and with the family, for any reason, that they would both simultaneously go on hunger strike because it's their, you know, it's their lifeline, especially speaking to one another and seeing one another, but also the family as well. And my understanding is that my mum started the hunger strike and was then shown a letter, essentially forged from Craig, saying that he is not on a hunger strike and she shouldn't be. And so she stopped. So there's a real manipulation that goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
You know, this was confirmed. I know that they saw each other a week Sunday, so not Sunday, just gone a week before that. And that's when my mum found out that Craig had actually been on hunger strike and decided to join him on the Monday.
And they are, I'm assuming, because it's been several days, they're taking on water at some point. How is it actually? I mean, are they being looked after? Is what I guess I'm asking.
I looked after it to the best ability. I think they're only taking on liquids. From what my understanding is, it's mainly water, milk every now and then, and teas. So, you know, hoping that you can extract some nutrients from those other bits there, but it's obviously not going to be sufficient over a long course of time. My understanding from speaking to people who have been in this position, gone through what they've gone through, going through, sorry, is that people will try to keep your spirits high. You know, they will also try to give you food, but my understanding is that both my Craig and my mum have rejected any food from anybody. They are really dead set on making this statement.
Nothing official then from the Iranian authorities. What about the British government? Because again, last time we spoke, you were frustrated at what you perceived to be a lack of action from this side.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've recently found out that the embassy in Tehran has reopened, which is welcome news. You know, that means that they're closer to my mum and Craig than they were before. And I think we're beyond the stage of simply acknowledging that they are innocent tourists. And the question is now, what is actually being done to bring them home? We're hoping that with the embassy reopening, that visits and welfare checks can happen as a matter of importance. As I say, we are all concerned here. They haven't been seen by our government for a long time. So that's top of the list at the moment. We have to make sure that they're both in as good a position as they can be, health-wise, mentally, and then from there, it's upping the political will. You know, history suggests that politics is the answer here. We've seen it.
Joe, let me just come in on that then to finish, because I remember the incarceration of Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, and behind all of that was Iran's sense of an unpaid debt of millions of pounds from years ago. Just to finish, do you have any sense about leverage on either side? Is there anything that they want? I mean, clearly, Iran and its regime are preoccupied at the moment with other issues, but is there any sense that there could be some leverage?
From what we're being told and see, leverage isn't as clear as the Nazanin case. That was pretty clear and evident early on, although, speaking to the family, it was also heavily denied. So we have tried to put solutions, and we've sort of tried to piece together what maybe their lawyers have said, or people who aren't officiated have said, and propose these as potential solutions to the government to press forward on. But we get the same rebuttal in that they are exploring all avenues, and avenues that we've discussed aren't the right ones, apparently. So at the moment, no, there doesn't seem to be any clear leverage, but I'm hoping that they're working on that behind the doors.
Joe, always a challenging time, I know, when you talk to us, especially now with both your parents on hunger strike, but appreciate you talking to us nonetheless.
No problem. Thank you.
Artificial intelligence was today described as an unstoppable force that's being weaponised just below levels we'd see in a full-blown war. That stark assessment came from someone who knows, the GCHQ director, Anne Butler. She also warned that despite Russia's enormous battlefield losses in Ukraine, the West risks losing the conflict in cyberspace. Our security and defence editor Deborah Haynes was there for the GCHQ boss's address at Bletchley Park.
It's more than 4 years since Vladimir Putin launched his full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and the head of GCHQ has just revealed how many Russian troops the UK believes has been killed. The figure is staggering.
As we remain steadfast in our support for Ukraine, Putin is going backwards on the battlefield, with new intelligence showing that almost 500,000 Russian soldiers have been killed since the conflict began.
Anne Butler was giving the first of what will be an annual GCHQ lecture. She used it to warn of the growing threat still posed by Moscow and the risk of miscalculation that could lead to wider war.
Russia is scaling up its daily hybrid activity against the UK and Europe, stretching from the seabed to cyberspace, relentlessly targeting critical infrastructure, democratic processes, supply chains, and public trust. But let me be clear that in the face of such aggression and chaos, GCHQ is working tirelessly with intelligence and defence partners to degrade and reduce the Russian threat.
The speech wasn't just about the Kremlin. The spy chief also talked about risks and opportunities posed by emerging technologies, from artificial intelligence to quantum computing and cyberspace to outer space. She said everyone on this new digital frontline must think more carefully about their own defences.
At home, that means taking important action to switch from passwords to pass keys. And for wider society, it means hardwiring security into new technologies, protecting supply chains, and making cybersecurity 10 times more urgent.
She gave the speech here at Bletchley Park, the wartime home of GCHQ, and a reminder of the vital importance of intelligence work at a time of global uncertainty.
You're watching The World here on Sky News. Still to come tonight, Matthew Perry's personal assistant is sentenced to more than 3 years in prison for his role in the Friends star's drug death.
Big stories don't always come from big cities. I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm Sky's Midlands correspondent.
You are not getting in this elevator, okay?
The judge made it very clear that she could see no justifiable reason why Scrutinises wasn't here facing British justice.
I promised I would get him justice.
Free, wherever you get your news. This is what they're up against. The wind is the really big problem. It is back-breaking work and the smoke is thick. It's been working well. Water levels are dropping, but no one knows what impact further rain will have. What would you do if this place wasn't open? This is the exact spot in Nottingham where their 19-year-old son, Barnaby Webber, lost his life.
I just think it's so cruel and so harsh.
It's really scary. We're terrified.
In this community, I'm told that everybody knows someone affected by COVID.
Hopefully this will be the last wave.
Sky News gets the full story first. Change seems tantalisingly close in this corner of the UK. Wales was the first to introduce the plastic bag charge. It's legal to let go. Set the speed and take the hands off. It's almost driverless, but not quite. Hans is a highly trained police dog. The force is incredible. It's really frightening, actually. This is my patch, my specialism. It's also my home.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... Hi, darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
...is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
Matthew Perry's personal assistant has been jailed for 3 years and 5 months for his role in the drug death of the Friends star. Prosecutors say that Perry's live-in personal assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, repeatedly administered the drug to the actor in the weeks leading up to his death. The Friends star had been taking ketamine legally for depression after years of struggling with addiction, but gradually went beyond the legal limits.
The name's Gibson, Patrick Gibson. There's a new James Bond in town, while fans are still waiting to hear who'll take over from Daniel Craig in the films. For the last 5 years, the Irish actor has had to hide the fact it's his voice and physical likeness in the new 007 video game, which he almost managed.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be the one to spill the beans.
Except to moms.
Yes, of course. Yeah. All moms have clearance on official secrets.
It's a massive gaming launch, but does this also mark Amazon's soft launching its 007 takeover? While Gibson managed to keep his casting under wraps, his motion capture suit wasn't quite the glamour he'd had in mind.
Seeing yourself, kind of strolling into a big gala wearing a tuxedo when you're really in like a grey sock was a challenge.
For gamers, the release of 007 First Light is a big deal. But look, even if you're not into games, it's worth exploring some of the behind-the-scenes gameplay here, because the concept is a first. It's an origin story game, which is clever. It means by creating a standalone Bond gaming universe, for the first time, they're not restricted to what's happening in the films. Of course, there's been a lot of focus on who might be best placed to take over from Daniel Craig in the films, with Amazon confirming auditions are underway. Callum Turner, Harris Dickinson and Jacob Elordi all getting a lot of mentions in the press. But for the first time, what happens here at Pinewood Studios, the spiritual home of the James Bond franchise, isn't the be-all and end-all for Amazon. Yes, almost every 007 has been shot here since the series began, and Denis Villeneuve's cinematic incarnation really has to start shooting here soon, given that it's out in 2028. But the launch of a James Bond video game that's not tied to the narrative of the films is quite telling. Because it isn't just the launch of a new video game. It's a stress test for how Bond fits into Amazon's constantly expanding content-making ecosystem.
There's a huge amount of reverence around the IP, and we've been working very closely with MGM turning into Amazon, so it's been a very close collaboration throughout.
In reality, this game was in production way before Amazon struck its deal with the Broccoli family for full creative control of the franchise. But if fans embrace the game, industry insiders believe this could mark the beginning of a new 007 strategy, moving towards a world of interconnected releases, spin-off side characters, as well as more movies. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Well, we rushed into that a little bit. That was Katie Spencer reporting on James Bond coming back, but in video game form, as I'm sure you realise. That is it from me. Coming up next, it will be The Wrap tomorrow night here on The World. It is Barbara Sarah from 9 o'clock. But in The Wrap with Gillian very shortly, well, there should be some news, possibly of English success in European football and the dying embers of Crystal Palace versus Rayo Vallecano in the UEFA Conference League. More on that in a moment.